Racers, do you want to improve your racing program? Do you want to know the feeling of victory every Saturday night? One of the premier and most successful driving schools in the United States of America is coming to Willamette Speedway. The Brooks Shaw Driving School is coming to Willamette Speedway April 27th and 28th. Wayne Brooks and Kevin Shaw will instruct you in the classroom and on the racetrack. Car setup and driver technique and everything in between will be addressed for everyone in attendance. Pricing for this 2-day class starts at $1,000 for a driver bringing his own car through the class, $400 for a crew member to come through the class, and no charge for a crew member coming to the track on the second day to help his driver at the track but not attending the classroom portion. Wayne Brooks also offers specialized classroom and race tech one-on-one coaching. The track session incorporates multiple visuals and hands-on exercises at the track to enable students to learn exactly how to improve performance. The track session also includes instructions on how to read a racetrack and how to predict which direction that track will go during the course of a race night. Everyone who attends the school receives a T-shirt, certificate of completion, and a 110-page technical manual. To register for the Brooks Shaw Driving School at Willamette Speedway, call 870-251-2966. A $100 deposit is required at time of registration. For more information, go to www.brookshawdrivingschool.com. Brooks Shaw Driving School, developing champions from coast to coast.
Now back to Northwest Dirt News from the Jetstream Aqua Massage Studio, live on Spreaker Radio.
We're back, and we're bad.
Jeez, what a break. I mean, talk about...
That's the fastest 6 minutes in the world.
No kidding. Talk
Breaks
about
always
controversy.
Are. Yeah.
So I want you to take a couple seconds and get that set up as it's calling out. We're going to get him on the phone. He just tried to call, and I actually hung up on him. We're going to have a...
Are you there?
We're going to... Let me turn you off there real quick. So, again, we will have Joey Tanner on here in just a few minutes. We're going to talk with another driver and get a whole different perspective on this deal. And Lauren's going to get that set up over there. Got the mic hot over there. Let's turn that one up. So, on Northwest Dirt News right now, we are going to welcome in Mr. Lauren Cruzy. Lauren, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How you doing tonight?
Good. How are you, buddy?
They're out here to visit with Winkler and more. We're pulling a differential out of the sports to the third member. The one we got at 600, so we're going to have to drop it down to some 583s. And Wink's got a set here in his sports, and he's going to loan me. The gentleman ambassador to our racing that he is, right?
Absolutely. So I don't know if you've had a chance to tune into the show tonight, but we were talking about a subject that came up in the dirt racing world with Justin Ratliff, a World of Outlaws late model driver who refused a drug test and has been suspended for 90 days and received a $1,000 fine. That 90 days can be reduced to 60 if he goes through a what was that called? A
drug and alcohol
program and passes 2 tests clean in the next 14 in the final 14 days of that. Lauren, given the industry that you're in, I kind of wanted to get your thoughts and your perspective on what you think racetracks, sanctioning bodies, and drivers should do when it comes to the subject of drug testing. Because of your industry, I think it'd be great to get your perspective.
Well, we've always been a medical-based business. Our hearts are with the people fighting cancer and seizures and their families. And so, for me, I have to look at it from that perspective. If you're going to do a test, I mean, look at Rush Limbaugh, right? I mean, he was addicted to what? Opiates, right?
Right.
Hillbilly heroin, right? So,
Hillbilly heroin.
I mean, anything like that can be, abused, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that we need to recognize that. I mean, I don't want somebody out there, beside me in a car drinking moonshine. But what if you suffer from PTSD or seizure disorder, or what if you have to take Xanax, or what if you're in severe pain? And you have to use some kind of Percocets or whatever. I mean, how far do we take this?
Well, isn't that an I'm sorry. Isn't that an exception though, on a drug test if you were prescribed something that if they find that in your blood, then that's okay if you're prescribed it? Am I wrong?
I don't know. That's what we're talking about here.
Because in Oregon, we just started passing legislation that they can't fire you, as the result of a marijuana test. So on the federal level, I mean, you got to look at this at the broad spectrum of people looking at it. And to me, it goes clear out to the federal level, and any jobs. So if your employer has any interactions with any federal agencies or federal licensing or any of that, they have to hold you to a more stringent, higher level of review, right?
Right.
Sure.
So you have to know that, I mean, and what if that drug test indicated that you did have, seizures, and they said, okay, well, you passed the test, but now we found out you got a health problem, and we're not going to hire you anyway, or we're going to suspend you anyway, right? So, I look at it just like with life, and this is a country that, was won and built upon freedom. So, what is the person doing wrong? I mean, was this guy, what is it, Ratliff, right?
Yes.
Right. We're only speculating. He just refused the drug test is all we know at this point.
They didn't say...
So what was he doing wrong?
That's what we're
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
so what it is the World Racing Group is a sanctioning body that is above the World of Outlaws and the National Dirt Car Series, okay? So their rules are when you race those series, you agree to random drug testing. When his name got pulled to do a random drug test, he absolutely refused to do it. Now we're talking about he was suspended and fined, okay, which spurred the conversation of what is acceptable, what isn't acceptable. Is it a zero tolerance? What should sanctioning bodies do to keep drivers safe? And given the industry you're in, I just wanted to get your opinion. I want to get your thoughts because, we complimented, what you're doing with cancer and the research. And we know that you've got multiple degrees when it comes to this type of deal. And you're very educated and intelligent on this. And I wanted to get the other side so people don't think, we're bashing this because we're not. And if you're a track owner, Lauren, or you own a sanctioning body, what would you do as far as a drug policy? What is and isn't acceptable?
And do we see this in the near future?
I believe that a behavior has consequences or follow up to it. We have no idea how many people are flying around Willamette Speedway, and they're using Xanax, or they're using a Percocet because their lower back is shot, or whatever that case may be, and honest to God, it's a really tough question because what do you begin to screen off, guys? Do we say, okay, I don't want to be on the track with somebody that's using Xanax, I don't want to be on the track with somebody that's using Percocet. As we all know, those are absolute mind-blowing, and people drive around on them all the time on our streets, right? Because it's an accepted way to medicate, right? So it's okay to have, your 4 or 5 Percocets a day, and be able to go to work still because they're trying to help you fulfill a role there, right?
Right.
But these same people, when we look at PTSD sufferers and whatnot, cancer, people are fighting cancer and seizures, and they're medicating using, cannabis. So where do we make that line? Where do we draw that line at? Now, if you're talking about on a recreational basis, right?
Well,
you shouldn't be out there in a race car or anywhere else behind a wheel drunk.
Right.
You just shouldn't be that way.
Right.
It'd be interesting to see I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If you have, if you are a recreational user, then during those moments that you're, holding, your safety and other people's safety. You need to be sober and as clear-minded as you can be. Immediately you follow the races, though, you should be able to do whatever you want. That's the problem is that, you can't drive drunk, you can't drive impaired.
Right.
But if you have a medical reason for doing that, then I think that supersedes that, guys. That's just my opinion.
Okay,
Right
that's a great opinion. That's a great perspective.
For.
That's exactly what we're asking for. And now let's say when it comes to your industry, because your industry has got so many, and it's proven here just in the last couple of years what your industry is doing as far as curing cancer and, like you said, the seizures and epilepsy and multitude of disease. Let's correct me now, educate me on this, because I know that when it comes to the medical marijuana, there's several different types where there's types that do contain THC and types that don't contain THC. Am I correct when I say that?
Right. THC Delta 9 is the only compound in marijuana, cannabis, that has a psychotropic effect. So basically there's 400 plus different parts of marijuana that cure us, reverse illness, maintain us, that don't make us hot. Okay, so yeah, I mean that people are treating different disorders with CBD, and the very thing that gives every plant or animal in our world the taste and smell, which are called terpenes, right?
Okay.
So you have terpenes that are in strawberries or cherries or pine trees, and all they do is create smell and taste. Well, they're finding out that just those terpenes in the natural world, let alone cannabis, has these huge healing effects for us, right? So there's all these parts that go with that. Eating raw cannabis right off the tree has no high to it whatsoever. And when you start looking at raw juicing and eating raw cannabis, I mean, it's one of the best things that anybody can do for our bodies, because we were meant to graze on it. That's why we have an endocannabinoid system, a part of our body and our brain that produces cannabinoids naturally. Okay, everybody, mammals, have this factory in our brain that's cannabinoids on a very, very small amount.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask. Okay, so and again, I'm learning this as we're talking, and when it comes to the THC and the CBDs that you're talking about, is there a test to determine what type of of CBD or cannabis is in a person's system?
No.
There's no test to determine what type. So because you can't test like a driver or anybody else, whether they're driving a truck for a living or racing a car, say they're using cannabis as medically, and they take a test and it just pops up that it's in their system. There's no way to determine if it's got that number 9 compound you're talking about.
Right. THC.
Okay.
Tetrahydrocannabinol Delta 9. Delta 9 is the only thing in cannabis that will make you high.
So here's the thing about it. If I was a sanctioning body, knowing what he just educated us on, I didn't know that. Knowing that, I would, if there was possible, and say a driver, somebody goes out and gets in a wreck, and they test them, and they come back with cannabis in their system, but they don't have the THC 9. Is that what you said?
Right.
If they don't have that in their system, I don't have a problem, because if that's the only one that creates the high feeling, as we talked about earlier, if that's the only one that creates it and it's present, then I think it's an issue. If it's the only one that creates it and it's not there, I don't see that as an issue.
And the other side of that is that there's no way of knowing how recent that they can do some mouth swabs, and they got some newer tests, but the jury's still out on all these new swab tests and stuff they're doing on how recent the use of that cannabis was, and how long that cannabis would have an impact on it. Okay, so there's more to it than that. I mean, a chubby dude like me, marijuana, cannabis is fat soluble, and it remains in fat tissue longer than lean. So a guy like me, here I have all this access in this beautiful facility, and that's the cheapest marijuana date you'll ever take out. Man, I look at somebody smoking a bowl and I get high.